Hello.
Hi, nice to meet you, sir.
Nice to meet you.
Sir Graham Brady is one of the most powerful MPs in Westminster. He's chairman of the Conservative 1922 Backbench Committee that's played a key role in choosing the country's last three Prime Ministers.
Rishi Sunak is therefore elected as leader of the Conservative Party.
Sir Graham is about to take part in a job interview with Soo-yeon Lee, the Vice President of External Affairs at the South Korean company Hanson Consulting.
Yeah, I mean, last year was the most remarkable year, and obviously I was quite closely involved in some of the changes that took place. But to have three prime ministers in the course of a year, and to have obviously a change in the head of state as well, was something that nobody would ever have expected or reckoned on happening, and probably will never happen again.
What Sir Graham doesn't know is that Hanson Consulting doesn't actually exist. It has no clients, no money and no staff. And Soo-yeon Lee is an undercover reporter.
I'm Anthony Barnett and I've been an investigative journalist for more than 20 years. Led by Donkeys approached me to help them conduct an experiment. Would serving MPs still find time to take on another job furthering the interests of a foreign company during the cost of living crisis? We wanted to know how much time MPs were prepared to make available to that company and how much money they'd ask for.
It's not against parliamentary rules for an MP to take a second job or a third or a fourth job, nor is it against the rules for them to work for a foreign company, and there are no limits on what they can earn and how much time they can spend. And maybe that's the problem. Certainly, a clear majority of the public think it's wrong for serving MPs to also work for a private company.
I had a very busy year last year, and had a very high profile. But it's quite nice now. I'm able to take a lower profile.
It's like us; we're taking a lower profile. So
Absolutely. So it's usually the best thing to do. I think only being very public when you need to be.
As well as chairing the 1922 committee, Sir Graham has been the Conservative MP for Aldringham and Sale West since 1997. He also already has a second job outside Parliament, and a third job, and a fourth job, including work for an investment research firm and a hospitality venture. So Sir Graham is a busy man, but would he have time to fit in another job on our International Advisory Board?
okay, so my first question is, my email mentioned that there will be 6 board meetings throughout the year, 5 of them mainly in Europe, hopefully in the UK, and 1 in South Korea. So I want to make sure that you'll be able to make the time for it. Will you be available for it?
Yes, I think I should say there are always possible, emergency occasions when, if something dramatic was happening in British politics, there's a very, very important vote of confidence in the government or something like that. There are, it is possible that there could be a time when I would have to be back here. But in a normal course of events, yes, I would be able to plan those things and make sure that I could be free to attend.
Sir Graham suggests his seniority in the Tory party means he will be given time to take on another job.
I have I suppose, a degree of seniority within my party, which means that I'm given a little bit of flexibility that perhaps not all of my colleagues would have. So yes, I don't think that would be a problem at all.
So available. And also, depending on the urgency, we may ask to have one-off meetings as well, because we will need your advice depending on how urgent the project is.
Again, ordinarily, yes, I would be. Obviously, a little bit of notice is helpful, but I would seek to be available whenever needed.
The conversation then turns to money.
Now we would like to talk about arrangement of fees, because we want to make sure we're paying the right level for the right person, and we're willing to do so. So, do you have a daily rate in mind at this case?
I don't know about a daily rate. I suppose, seeing your approach and the kind of expectations you'd have, I was thinking something like £60,000.
60,000
annual,
pounds. Oh,
as an annual rate.
okay.
If
That's
you think
certainly.
that's far too cheap, let me know.
I just want to make sure that we're paying you the right amount in terms of the one-off meetings, because it might be like phone calls or might be like Zoom calls like this one. So we do want to get an hourly rate for this as well. Do you have any hourly rate in mind?
I mean, the trouble is, I do various different things at very different costs. I did, for instance, I did something for Grant Thornton Ireland last November, where I was paid £6,500, and I suppose I was working for an hour and a half, but I did have to travel to Dublin and back.
Okay.
So probably that sort of would be
£6,000
something like a daily rate.
Okay.
Something like a daily rate, I think, rather than an hourly rate.
Okay,
So £500 an hour, something like that.
yeah. £500 an hour and 6,000 per day and 60,000 pounds a year. Okay.
It feels about right.
Yeah, feels
Open
about right.
negotiation.
We tell Sir Graham we will be visiting London in the spring and ask if he can help us fix up some meetings.
Suggesting people that would be useful to meet, or arranging those meetings?
Arranging the meetings.
Potentially. I suppose what I think it's probably worth me just also giving you an idea of some of the things that I would be constrained in doing.
Yeah.
Because my view has always been very strongly that it's very important for me always to follow all of the rules and regulations relating to my role as a member of Parliament.
Sir Graham tells us that he has to publicly register any payments from us, and MPs can't lobby for people that pay them.
I think the rule would be that if I was approaching somebody in government, then I would have to be completely transparent about the fact that I had a paid interest in something, and I would not be able to advocate on behalf of, but I don't think that would stop me approaching. The most useful thing, I think, generally, and as you know, I've worked in public affairs, I always find that actually direct approaches are more useful in any case. So more likely, I would just advise you of who to approach and how to do it in the most appropriate way.
I mean, so far, after all this conversation, is this certainly something that you are interested in?
Absolutely, yes. I'm very interested to find out more about South Korea as well.
And then we say goodbye. In the course of the call, Sir Graham never once mentioned finding time for his constituents during the cost of living crisis. And 45 minutes after we hung up, he emailed us sending us a copy of his CV and his mobile number. So our fake foreign company had a very senior MP as a potential board member. A few weeks after we spoke to him, Sir Graham announced he'd be standing down as an MP at the next election. And in a statement to Led by Donkeys, Sir Graham said,
"Having decided to leave the Commons at the next election, I have received a number of approaches regarding future opportunities. I did have an exploratory discussion with someone purporting to be recruiting an international advisory board for a South Korean investment house. I made it clear that any arrangement would have to be completely transparent and that whilst a Member of Parliament, I would only act within the terms of the Code of Conduct. I also made it clear that whilst I could be flexible in attending international meetings in person, this would be subject to some important votes or commitments in Westminster.